brave souls who embarked on this adventure.
The series opens with a woman, Lorelai, having a drink and jumping into the water for a swim. But suddenly, she shows up on the shore, dead on the beach. 18 hours earlier, everyone is getting ready for a party, and some beautiful women are being taught how to be proper and stylish. A man is looking for Lorelai, but can't seem to find her. Lorelai is in the lower decks visiting Stokes, who gives her a secret package. Later, Lorelai attends the party, where she spots her sister Emily, spending time with Executive Officer Galt. Emily is married, but she's romantically involved with Galt. To stir things up, Lorelai kisses Galt before heading to the pool. As everyone watches an old video, Galt and Emily sneak into an empty room for fun. In 1963, the US government began a project named Ascension due to the worry that nuclear bombs would destroy the world. This involved a big spaceship that could support itself. 600 volunteers traveled to Proxima Centauri to colonize a new planet on that solar system. The journey is planned to take 100 years. The Ascension is thriving and houses 2 more generations, but it's split by social status. The wealthy families have the top jobs and live in luxury on the upper deck. At the same time, the less fortunate work as servants and are restricted to the lower deck. To mark the 51st anniversary, the ship is hosting a grand party to celebrate passing the point of no return. At the party, Krista realizes Lorelai is missing from the party and goes to find her, only to discover her lifeless body. Fast forward to 2014, and Harris comes to the hospital to check on his father, Abraham, who is so ill that he can't even form simple sentences anymore. The nurse comes in, mentioning that Abraham had another visitor, but Harris is the only one who even knows he's here. He goes after the mystery visitor who recognizes Harris. He is Mark Hayes, a PhD student who's looking for a story on the Ascension project that was pioneered by Abraham all the way back in the 1960s. Harris plays it off, but Mark makes it clear that this might be a possibility, not knowing the project was real, but being kept secret from the public by the military and government. On the ship, Galt goes to the ship's control room and learns that the captain has been looking for him. He makes his way to the beach where Dr. Juliet, Emily's husband, Duke, and Captain William surround Lorelai's body, trying to figure out their next step. Dr. Juliet suggests that Lorelai might have been struck on the head, but Galt spots rope marks on her wrists and thinks there might be more to it. To avoid causing panic on the ship, William asks Galt to quietly look into it. In the meantime, Krista is in shock from what she's seen and has been taken to the medical bay, where she's given a calming drug. Suddenly, Krista starts trembling in her bed, uttering that they're being watched and that Globus sees everything, leading Juliet to put her to sleep. In part of the ship, an unknown person writes the words of the future on a wall. Later, Galt reviews the security footage and discovers that the cameras do not cover the beach. When they checked the surveillance footage, there was no evidence of anyone coming or going on the corridor cameras, leaving the question of how Lorelai ended up there unanswered. Emily visits Galt to inform him that Lorelai had been secretly dating a man named James from the lower deck. On the night of the murder, Lorelai was with him, and Emily tried to persuade her to end the relationship. Still, Lorelai's threat to reveal Emily's affair with Duke forced her to keep quiet. Once the autopsy results are available, Juliet presents them to the captain, indicating that Lorelai had been intimate with somebody before her death. There's also a small hole in the top of her mouth, caused by a tiny yet potent bullet, confirming this wasn't a mishap. William is now concerned because firearms shouldn't be present on the ship, and he shares this news with Galt, who agrees to send a report to Earth. Afterward, Galt visits the library to borrow some books on solving mysteries. The librarian, Ophelia, informs him that the last item Lorelai borrowed was a tape about the year 31, when her parents died in a fire. Still, she returned the box without the tape. Later, Juliet is summoned to check on Krista again, as she is found lying down and refusing to communicate with anyone. As soon as Krista spots Juliet, she compliments her on her necklace. They chat about their journey, but Krista suggests there's nothing for them and they should return to Earth to stay safe. In the meantime, Galt's crew has located James. James confesses that he met Lorelai on the day of the party, but it was pretty early. They disagreed because Lorelai didn't want to join him at the party. He didn't see her after that and certainly didn't spend intimate time with her. Later, Galt approaches Krista to ask if she has any information. Krista believes Lorelai went to the beach out of fear of someone, but not James, who was kind to her. Krista is also aware that Lorelai professed to know the truth. When Galt questions her about her conversation with Juliet, Krista expresses that she understands things. Later, Galt meets James and releases him as his alibi checks out. He then uses the security footage to find out he's heading to the beach. Galt follows him there for further questioning, but James denies any knowledge of the library tape. When Galt questions if Lorelai really died on the beach, they find a hidden path that shows how she got there without being seen by the cameras. At the same time, Krista goes to the star deck and shouts at the sky, "Stop looking at us! I'm not scared of you!" Back on Earth, Harris gets the news about the killing. His helper, Carrillo, thinks they should inform the director, but Harris says no because he doesn't want his dad's project to get a bad name. Galt and Duke explore the hidden path and see the letters NF on the wall and a notebook that looks like a book of poems. They follow the blood marks on the ground and they find where Lorelai was killed. They show the notebook to William, who verified that the notes were guides for the nav computer and water cleaning systems, which had stopped working a few weeks ago. Proving there was deliberate damage, William allows them to look around the ship. As the guards begin to search the lower deck, Stokes is against the search and gets his team to start a conflict. The meeting is cut short when a warning says the ship is nearing a big radiation storm and everyone has to stay in their pods until it's over. The shields meant to keep the ship safe are stuck, so Galt finds an electrician from the lower levels to repair it. James uses the confusion to ask Nora to join him at the beach because Lorelai told him she hid something there, and he no longer trusts the officers. Together, they move some pipes under the water and discover the tape Lorelai hid in a jar. Juliet gives Krista some pills to stop a panic attack and leaves her necklace with her for protection. After dealing with a minor electrical issue, the electrician can repair the shields. He uses his private moment to tell Galt that he saw Stokes give Lorelai a gun on the day of the celebration. Everyone rushes to their radiation pods to wait out the storm on the ship, but Krista spots someone in a protective suit enter her room and takes the necklace. Shortly after, the storm passed and things went back to normal. William learns about what the electrician saw and gives the guards permission to search Stokes' workplace. The gun is discovered in a bucket, and Stokes insists it's been framed, yet he's taken into custody. While being questioned, Stokes confesses to giving Lorelai the gun, but nothing more. He's convinced she wasn't scared of anyone. Instead, he believes someone else was scared of her. The guards are convinced of Stokes' guilt and decide to banish him. With the killer now apprehended, they plan a funeral for Lorelai, during which her casket is launched into space. Krista goes to Galt to hand over an army medal she found in her room, explaining that Lorelai had left it there and it was a present from her boyfriend. In the meantime, the door to Stokes' cell strangely opens by itself, so he seizes the opportunity to flee and recover the gun. Back on Earth, Harris is faced by Director Warren, who has found out about the gun and is angry that Harris attempted to hide it from her. She warns him that she can stop the project whenever she wants. Still, their discussion is suddenly interrupted by another crisis. On the spacecraft, Galt challenges William about the medal, as he recognizes it belongs to the current ship captain. William confesses he was romantically involved with Lorelai, but he didn't murder her. Just then, Stokes appears, holding Nora captive. He claims that he was framed and that someone had been in his workplace during the storm because he noticed a footprint that wasn't previously there. Suddenly, the airlock opens, so Galt uses the confusion to grapple with Stokes. At the same time, William escorts Nora to a different room. Galt and Stokes struggle for the gun, but as the airlock widens, Galt chooses to cling to a wall while Stokes is pulled into space. After a long fall, Stokes is surprised to land on a blown-up mattress where a group of people sedate him and carry him away. Warren observes from a distance Harris, who assures her he manages everything. It turns out Ascension is a mock-up. The spaceship is housed inside a structure to assess the feasibility of conducting this mission in reality. No one on the ship knows the reality. They all believe they're in space due to the star displays on the windows, and the random events Harris creates with machines to maintain the deception. Stokes is subjected to numerous tests. Then he's confined as if he's insane. After a while, Warren dispatches Samantha, a security advisor who will monitor the situation because she doesn't believe Stokes is guilty and there's a killer at large. In the meantime, in one of the many generator rooms, an unknown individual plants a bomb and carves "No Future" on the wall. Shortly after, the bomb detonates near the terror lab. Some employees are injured. Harris and Samantha witness the explosion from the exterior and have to retreat when the ship expels with fire. Galt, William, and Duke discover the "No Future" graffiti and choose to inform everyone that the explosion was an accident. Samantha attempts to speak with Stokes, but he assaults her and declines to respond to any inquiries after she's saved by the guards. Samantha later chats with Warren, sharing that Harris claims the blast was unintentional, but she senses he's not being truthful. She suspects there's more to this than just a social study. Warren admits he sent Samantha to uncover the real purpose of the experiment, using the murder investigation as a handy cover-up. Galt continues his search, believing Stokes is innocent. He visits Dwight, the guy responsible for the generators, to inquire about the blast. Dwight, scared of being caught, strikes Galt and runs. Shortly after, William and Duke go to the hospital to tell Galt that Dwight is nowhere to be found. They also find out that another generator is gone, indicating a possible future explosion. Meanwhile, Krista confides in Ophelia, expressing her fear of an impending disaster. After a while, Galt tells William that he looked into it and discovered that the fire in the 31st year was caused by a generator bomb, not an accident. Dwight wasn't even born at that time, so Galt suspects there might be a group of people causing trouble for a long time, and Lorelai finds that out, which leads to her death. However, William is convinced that Stokes is the one who killed Lorelai and tells Galt to focus on locating Dwight. Next, James comes to Galt to give him the tape that Lorelai hid in the water and lets him know that Dwight is on the 23rd deck, where the old blast happened. At the same time, an unknown person is seen preparing another bomb. Galt decides to inspect Deck 23, which makes Harris nervous because the area is so ruined that he might hear sounds from the outside. While Galt is away, the entire team has to stay completely quiet. Galt discovers a toy rocket on the ground that reminds him of his sad past because his parents, like Lorelai's, died in the explosion on Deck 23. As Galt moves deeper inside, Harris gets nearer to the ship and unintentionally creates some noise. Galt taps the wall to see if the sound was just an echo and starts to recall his childhood memories with this place. His mother had found him and shielded him from the explosion when it occurred. Further into the room, Galt discovers the bomb and Dwight, who shoves him away as he triggers it. Stokes appears to be Dwight's dad, and now Dwight seeks vengeance for his father's death. Outside, Harris tells everyone to leave, not bothering to rescue Galt because the project is of greater importance. Galt leaps on Dwight to confront him, but after a bit of a scuffle, he gets a hold of the remote and deactivates the bomb. Dwight's oxygen tank gets damaged during the fight, so when Galt rushes outside and depressurizes the room, Dwight dies. Later, Samantha stumbles upon a conspiracy website that reveals several scientists who were part of the project either disappeared or were killed in the 1960s, and she decides to reach out to the person who runs the website. That night, Krista dreams about Juliet's necklace, while Harris comes home and presents the necklace to his wife, confirming he has a source inside the ship. A few days later, the team prepares for their yearly vaccinations. When it's Krista's turn, she refuses, panicking and shouting that the vaccines are harmful. Ophelia goes first to reassure her, but soon after, she starts convulsing. Samantha is confused about what is happening, but Harris assures her that Ophelia just had an allergic reaction to the vaccine intended for Krista, because each vaccine is specially made. Later, in the medical room, Krista confesses to Juliet and Galt that she feels responsible for Ophelia's illness. She was frightened of the vaccines because she had seen a man tampering with the vials, and Ophelia had agreed to join her. Krista insists that she saw all this in a dream, and that the man who messed with the vaccines is the same one she saw with Lorelai in the tunnels, which also turned out to be true. Krista is convinced that the man is still aboard the ship. Meanwhile, Harris is reviewing Krista's panic video. He is surprised by her vital signs because they hadn't seen someone with those genetic traits since '83, when a man was given the wrong vaccine. The man's immune system started to fight itself because he missed his shot, and now Harris is concerned that Krista might experience the same. They mix the vaccine into Krista's milk, but she senses their trick and spills it on the floor while staring at the camera. In the meantime, Samantha meets Eva, who runs the conspiracy website. She presents evidence of the 70 scientists who vanished and mentions that the project used Kennedy's Advanced Education Initiative to abduct children and involve their parents in the project. Eva had a conversation with one of the parents, who has been searching for her daughter for 50 years and thinks Abraham is the key to everything. Juliet examines the vaccine compounds and doesn't find any evidence of tampering. Krista is spending some time alone on the beach when a man suddenly approaches her, who is trying to force the shot on her. This man is an insider working for Harris, and when Krista tries to escape, Harris locks all the doors. The unknown man locates Krista in the lab, and as he reaches out to her, he injures his arm on a piece of lab equipment. Krista fights to break free, and her anger causes the light bulb to burst using her mind, allowing her to run away. Harris isn't surprised to see the girl's ability because Abraham had foreseen this. Later, Krista runs into Galt and explains that the blood on her clothes is from the person who attacked her. Juliet uses this blood to check it against her records, but it will take some time. She is also concerned about Krista's low white blood cell count, but Krista refuses to take the medicine. Galt visits Krista and persuades her to take medicine, and afterward, she's visited by Juliet's husband, Robert. Seeing Robert makes Krista change her mind about the medicine, and when Robert asks what Krista has seen, she starts talking about events she couldn't possibly know about, like 9/11, the war in the Middle East, and Kennedy's death. She also recognizes Robert as the man she saw with Lorelei in the tunnels. Robert quickly gives her a shot to make her sleep, then looks at the camera, unsure of what to do now that the secret has been revealed. Harris isn't concerned because Krista can't recall anything the following day. Robert tells Galt that the blood on Krista's clothes is from Juliet's lab helper. The guards attempt to arrest him, but when they enter his room, they find he's taken his own life. There's a cut on his arm that backs up Krista's account. Harris assures Samantha this isn't a murder case, but she's unsure. She starts to list a number of hints she's discovered while reviewing the ship's video footage. She believes Stokes was correct in saying the gun was planted and that Harris has an accomplice on the ship who killed this man to frame him. Harris, however, keeps denying everything. Galt tells William that they've searched the assistant's room and questioned others, but they haven't found any evidence of the saboteurs. The prevailing idea is that he felt remorse for giving Ophelia the incorrect medicine, but it seems too easy. A few days later, the crew hosts a celebration to announce that due to the recent deaths, 3 fortunate couples will be permitted to have children to maintain the ship's population. In the meantime, Krista wakes up in the middle of the night to hear a woman's laughter. She traces the sound down a hallway and encounters Lorelei's ghost, who interrupts the party just as the large screen starts to play a video of her relationship with William. The spirit advises Krista to avert her eyes, but the girl screams in terror. Harris reviews the video and is pleased that Krista reacted before the video began, indicating her abilities are getting stronger. This is the morphic resonance that Abraham foresaw would emerge in 3 generations, and Krista is the trigger. The project's true aim has always been to enable a person to cultivate such abilities. The following day, Juliet brings Krista to the lab for some tests, and Krista shares that she occasionally feels like she's trying to hold back the sea. At the same time, Samantha seeks out Carrillo to have him explain the ship's marriage system. It turns out the crew doesn't have the freedom to choose their spouses. The computer makes the selection based on genetics to ensure a healthy population. The computer also decides who will have children. To prevent unplanned pregnancies, the crew is given a device, but some forcibly remove it. These unexpected babies are referred to as unclaimed and are sent to the lower level, as was the case with Stokes' son, Dwight. As Carrillo speaks, Samantha swipes his access card. Their discussion is cut short by Warren's arrival, who has read Samantha's report and is displeased. Meanwhile, a nurse gives Stokes his medication, and Stokes finally gathers enough strength to knock him out. As Warren and Harris argue, Samantha seizes the opportunity to sneak off and visit Stokes, who also knocks her out. Shortly after, Samantha regains consciousness and finds herself tied in the locker room. Stokes is gathering clothes and a knife to force Samantha to take him to the captain, as he still believes he's on the ship. Samantha leads Stokes to a hangar and reveals the truth, which makes him lose control of his emotions. As men from Warren's group come to capture Harris, Samantha pulls Stokes away. Warren then steps in to lead the project. Galt visits Krista, who is undergoing a series of tests. He also seizes the opportunity to question Robert about the inappropriate video. After inspecting the systems, Robert verifies that William's code posted the video, which is puzzling. In the meantime, Krista continually hears a voice saying her name. Emily, chosen to have a child, has her implant taken out. Duke discusses their shared future and wants Emily to confirm her love for him, as he's noticed how she and Galt look at each other. Emily's lack of response affirms the secret relationship, and an enraged Duke confronts Galt. Krista spots Lorelai again and follows her from the lab to the beach, where she discovers Duke and Galt in a dispute. In an attempt to halt them, she accidentally unleashes her powers and shocks Duke. Unable to control her powers, she sends an electrical surge throughout the ship, causing it to shut down. The electricity also strikes Warren and her team, resulting in a few casualties. Warren suspects Harris orchestrated this, but he quickly clarifies that nothing in the building is that powerful. This is seen as Krista's power, the next stage in human evolution. Fascinated by the idea, Warren orders his team to release Harris. Meanwhile, outside, Stokes comes across a memorial listening to all those who perished on the ship and is devastated when he sees his son's name. Samantha said she had released him because she wanted his help stopping the project. Suddenly, a guard discovers them and attempts to detain them, but Samantha and Stokes collaborate to knock him out before fleeing in a car. They notice Samantha is wounded, so they stop at the store for supplies. Stokes requests the most effective medicine and injures a staff member to obtain it without a prescription. They then take shelter in a motel to tend to Samantha's injury. Krista stumbles upon Galt, who's also passed out, and motivates him before she vanishes. Galt then spots Duke approaching just as he blacks out again, only to regain consciousness later in the infirmary. The power outage has caused pandemonium everywhere, and they believe they're drifting in space. It's revealed that Abraham connected the starlights to the ship's nuclear reactor, ensuring the illusion remains intact even during a blackout. Warren instructs Harris to prioritize restoring power to regain visibility of the ship, and Harris opts to connect the nuclear reactor as well. Meanwhile, William oversees a large amount of damage assessment of the ship. James spots some strange images on a TV screen. He attempts to alert Robert, but Robert dismisses it as a system glitch to distract him. Once James leaves, Robert disconnects the wires to prevent external broadcasts. Harris also notices this and announces an issue. The signal blockers aren't built into the ship. They were installed years later when the world went digital, indicating the illusion could soon be shattered. Harris will need to manually access the jammers. Warren directs him to bring Carrillo, who is secretly working for her. Samantha meets Ava and asks for her help getting out of the country and spreading the word about Ascension. They return to the motel, where Eva meets Stokes and expresses her understanding of the tough life he had on the lower deck. As Stokes leaves to gather their belongings, Samantha realizes she never mentioned the lower deck to Eva, which implies Eva has been working for Harris from the start. The website was designed to make any hints appear as wild conspiracy theories to prevent her from revealing anything.